Hey guys, Saka here with another Kerbal Space Program video. You can see I've equipped my Saturn V rocket with a new escape tower. We got Jebediah, Bill, and Bob aboard. Basically what I did is I put a stack separator under an aerodynamic nose cone with 4 separators ready to fire on the single stage. Now I'll give you a demonstration on how this escape tower works. I put it with the abort button. So we'll lift off here, and we will simulate a crash on liftoff so we can see if this big old escape tower works. We can see it's struggling to get off the launch pad. It's not a good launch whatsoever. It starts leaning over, and let's just say at this point it's completely out of control and I can't save it. I've lost all control. We hit the abort button and those 4 separators fire, pulling the pod completely off, and we manually deploy the chute while the rocket falls beneath us. Deploy the other chute. It's like a dunce cap. This cap, the rocket failed, therefore it gets a dunce cap. Hitting the spacebar flies the cap off, and the rest of the rocket crashes down to the surface. But our astronauts will live to fly another day. So on to the real mission. Here we go, Apollo 11 ready to launch, and this is a much better liftoff than last time. The escape tower didn't add too much weight to this rocket overall. I didn't notice a difference when I was flying it. And I also have it ready to fire on that after dropping these engines. So on the very first stage separation, that tower will fire off, and you'll get to see that. And it was at this point in the real Apollo missions that the astronauts were finally able to look out their window. But a very slow climb. It's certainly not as peppy as the Gemini rockets and the Sputnik rockets were. But we're climbing up now 2,500 meters. It's a very slow crawl towards the night sky. Luckily with the moon, it doesn't matter when you launch, because you can get to a proper ejection point in no more than a half hour. Like half hour is the longest you'll have to wait for a good lunar injection, at least for Kerbal. Here we go, halfway up to our gravity turn now, and almost out of fuel on that first stage. Burning still full power. Jebediah seems to be enjoying the ride. There's our stats, 300, almost 400 tons on the launch pad, and that's with a nearly bone dry first stage. So I apologize for not looking at the weight before I took off. And here we go, first stage fires, and at the very top of the rocket you can see those separators take off and ready to do our gravity turn. It's a sloppy turn towards the 90, so you can see my orbital vector there is actually above the 90. It's like at the 85-ish or so, 80, 85. So I have to fire to the right of the 90 to bring that yellow trajectory marker up. And now, since I'm out here on the orbit panel, I'm able to select the moon as the target, and that will give me a real-time ascending and descending node. So as I fly, I can move to the left and the right of the 90 and adjust the node accordingly in real time. So I'm a half a degree off right now, and you can see me sliding to the right of the 90. It goes up, so I put it to the left of the 90, and it spins back around to the 0 marker. Also watching my apoapse, I'm at 70,000 meters, going up to again to the 120 kilometer launch profile of Apollo 8. And there we go, 125,000 meters, and our node is 0.3. So pretty much on with the moon, as long as I can fire this circularizing burn straight and true. Once again, it doesn't have to be a perfect circle because it won't be too long, and we'll be firing towards the moon. And now I have to orientate this beast to our marker. And this thing doesn't turn that well, as I said before. At times I have to use the RCS. Luckily, we're 3 minutes away from our burn, so I'm not in that big of a rush to get to to the point, and as you can see, we're very low on fuel in this stage, so I probably won't be able to go to full throttle before I detach this stage. But a very low delta V burn, since it's right on that apoapse, I'm only going to need 600 and so meters a second, when usually you need 800 or so, or at least I have been in the past. There's my marker now, still rotating slowly. I try not to manually rotate at the expense of the battery. Luckily, the battery can mostly be charged when I fire the last stage all the way towards the moon, but I don't want to take any chances because once that lander detaches, it's completely on its own. Fast forwarding time here to the node, and it's a very quick burn. Full throttle, we're out of fuel, and fire that last stage, and thankfully our battery starts to charge. So we will circularize our orbit using that 600 meters a second delta V, and it won't be long now and we'll be in a stable 120 kilometer orbit. A nice panorama there. Cut the engines, get rid of the node, and there we go, 122 by 133. So now we're at the moon. If you wanted to see a free return trajectory and a stabilization burn around the moon, check out my Apollo 8 video. But now our lander is ready to make its descent with Jebediah and Bill aboard. So we've got a node set to land us just outside that big crater. Now I don't know if in 2.1 they got rid of it, but I searched around last night on my own and I couldn't find the Neil Armstrong Memorial, and I was at the proper coordinates. Nice sunrise with our command module floating around, and there's a nice Kerbal rise as well. But I looked for the monument and it wasn't there at the proper coordinates. So if you guys know anything, let me know whether the coordinates moved or whether I just wasn't looking hard enough. Otherwise I would have landed there. But we're going to be landing fairly close to that place, doing our retro burn now, and as you can see, this little poodle engine doesn't really take a whole lot of fuel, which is good because first we will slow our orbit down to almost nothing to where we start falling straight towards the moon, and then using the throttle we'll regulate our descent once we get closer to the surface. But we will do it in bursts as it's completely inefficient to keep burning the whole way. So a hard burn, there we go. So now we are going to drop, if we just let this thing hit the ground, right there in that open space next to the crater. But what I'm going to do is accelerate time to get us a little closer to the surface. And then usually at 20,000 meters, I start burning. So there we go, there's 20,000, and now I will bring us to a complete standstill. And you'll just do that by firing retrograde on, make sure you have your orbit marker selected. We'll go ahead and lower the landing gear and prepare for our landing. Jebediah seems excited. Bill's just looking out at that capsule. I want to go home. Slowing down now. Full throttle all through here, and I was hoping that my battery would charge up through this process, but it's not. So I don't keep my SAS on, as that very slowly drains battery, and like I said, I don't want to take any chances with this. So the lander is pretty stable on its own, and I don't need to do any drastic directional changes. We've cut half our speed now, dropping below 100 meters a second surface speed, and now that marker will start to go to the top center of the blue, which means we are in a straight free fall. There we go, killing speed. At this point I'm 7,000 meters above the surface, and now I'll check my radar altitude, and a good rule of thumb is to have 10 meters a second for every 100 meters you're above the ground. So At 6,000 meters, you want to be going 60 meters a second. 5,000, you want to drop that down to 50, that, and so on until you're at the surface. Though that changes once you drop. See right there, my radar altitude is reading that we're only 2,000, now almost 1,000 meters above the surface right at that point. So at 3,700, we're actually going to land. So you need to really account for your radar altitude, because if you're going to wait till 0, you're going to smack the moon pretty hard. And now, since the sun is directly overhead, we can look down on the lunar surface and see our shadow, which is one of the benefits of landing day side, as we can watch our shadow grow and anticipate our arrival. Almost 300 meters above the surface now, according to our radar altitude estimates. Dropping slowly now, our shadow disappears for just a second, and then once we really start closing in 100 meters above, we can really see that shadow grow. I'm using SAS here to keep myself perfectly vertical, but the thing about the moon is the surface isn't entirely flat, so once I touch down, it may pitch me over one way or another. But coming down now, we can really see that shadow and all that definition in the landing legs. Rotate the camera up and just give a little bit of throttle, cut it, and there we go. We have successfully landed on the moon. The Kerbal has landed. A nice barren place and not too much of a slant. We got lucky and didn't tilt over. So let's drop the ladder and get these Kerbals surfaced. Nice light there. I should have put on some landing lights, although with that electric charge being as low as it is, it might have killed it. But Jebediah is the first out of the capsule. There's the sun directly overhead, and as we change camera angles here, we'll get a nice view of Kerbal as he descends the ladder. Here we go. Any words there, Jebediah? Nope, just fall off the ladder. But here we are. We're on the moon. Hooray! And look how high he can jump. Almost to the door. You don't even need the ladder. Well, no use letting Jebediah have all the fun. Let's get Bill out. Also on EVA. And now he descends the ladder a little bit more vigorously than Jebediah, and he also falls. But now, thanks to the new Kerbal 0.20 update, right before 2.1, we can plant a flag. But it's been a long road getting from there to here. It's been a long time, but our time is finally near. And if you know what I'm singing, you know what flag is about to pop out. There we go, the NX-01 Enterprise. Site name, what's a good name for the site? Well, let's be completely unoriginal. Moon landing! And we want the plaque to read, "With faith of the heart, we reached," there we go, "the moon." And that reminds me that I misspelled moon. So, there we go, proper Kerbal spelling. With faith of the heart, we reached the moon, and most importantly, and didn't explode. There we go. The plaque is ready, and from here on out, Jebediah is stoked. Look at that. From here on out, this will be the place where Kerbals first went, interplanetary. So now it's time to get these guys home, as Bill looks longingly to Kerbal. Next episode, the Apollo 11 mission comes home. So we'll see you then. Thanks for watching.